When Tom Horn and I and Timothy Alvarino were in the desert Southwest meeting with Native American elders and Zuni elders and Pueblo elders, they talk routinely about the stargates, and they talk about meeting on different occasions to open up the stargates. And what's fascinating is that these are their words, that the giants appear as if in a watery mirror and tell them the time of their soon return is upon us. They actually warned the Native American elders about, which they passed on to their different tribes people, they warned them about 9/11 before it happened. So what's happening, Dave, is everybody is getting ready for the big play. And here's something else I want to claim, or not claim, but share with everyone. The idea of stargates has been broached by the father of stealth technology, who was Ben Rich, and he was the second director of Lockheed Skunk Works from the years 1975 to 1991. And I'm quoting him now, okay? He said, "We already have the means to travel amongst the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black projects, and it would take an act of God to ever get them out for the benefit of mankind. Anything you can imagine, we already know how to do. We now have the technology," here's a famous statement, "to take ET home. No, it won't take someone's lifetime to do it. There is an error in the equations. We know what it is. We now have the capability to travel to the stars." And then he goes on to say, there are two types of UFOs, the ones we build and the ones they build. Mm-hmm. You and I on your show have talked at great detail on Dr. Werner von Braun and Hermann Oberth, who said it's not that I'm paraphrasing, it's not that we Germans were smarter than than the Allies or, than the Americans, but we had help from the outside. One of the things, and I'll share this, I haven't said this, but I will share it now. Before Greg Evenson passed away, days before he went to be with Jesus, he and I were talking about Mars, and he told me something astonishing. And Greg was a former state trooper. He was also, in a clandestine form of the military, but he was also in Space Command. So when Donald Trump says he's going to have a new Space Command, good night. That's been around since, the 60s.
Yes,
it truly has. So the point that I want to share with everybody, one of Greg's last statements to me. Now understand, he knew he didn't have long, so he wanted to share a couple things. And I'll share this with you, Dave. He made the statement that he was taken in a faster-than-light ship and shown something that I believe he called Altair 1. And one of Greg's relatives was basically personal friends with Dr. Werner von Braun and absolutely verified that story. Now, will people believe me on your show, my show? No. But if those of you who are honest saying, now, why would they come up with a show called SG-1 Stargate? By the way, that was one of my favorite movies of all time. It was wonderfully done. But if you notice the ties now between the Egyptian theme and Stargate 1, now they're having all these antiquities found in Egypt, and now we're hearing that pyramids are absolutely if you will, an energy storage medium to basically be able to project energy. And then, ladies and gentlemen, today, which is whenever this plays, I just sent Dave Hodges a radar screenshot sent to me by one of my listeners of what's going on in the Mount Graham area. Mount Graham, as Tom Horn details at great length, was one of the holiest, foremost sacred sites in all of the United States. It is a known stargate. It is also where the Roman Catholic Church built their observatory. So, Dave, explain to the people what you see before your eyes, because you have some interesting things to say. You broke the article about a mall literally in between the beam angle, and that's what you call the beam angle. In essence, such a great energy force was being aimed at Mount Graham. The only answer that I can come up with is that someone's trying to open the gate on Mount Graham.
Well, that's a data trail, and we talked about this. I was at a conference in 1997, and people say, Dave, you didn't get in the media until about 2004, 2005, and that's true. But let's put it this way, I'm listening to Art Bell for the very first time in 1993, And Vance Davis, formerly the NSA, was on there, and he was talking about the secret space program, and I go, oh, my gosh, he's saying exactly what my dad told me before he died. So I reached out and eventually got a hold of him. Then I met Bill Pollock, formerly the CIA and Air Force Intel, and I was invited to these conferences to share what I knew, and we all had non-disclosure agreements and so forth. So long story short, I was shown a data stream from that was running through space to infinity that was emanating from the Earth. And I said, what in the world is that? Is that a weapon? And they go, no. That is what we call a Stargate data stream. And it appears as a trail of light when something is being transported into hyperspace, because it gets out into near-Earth orbit and it jumps into hyperspace, is what I was told. It's fantastic. And what I'm looking here at with what you sent me, and I'm going to be publishing this when our interview goes live on my website, that this particular map does emanate let's put it this way, all roads lead to Mount Graham. That's what I'm seeing here in this. And this is a data stream that, to me, shows Stargate activity.
And this is also interesting because when the giants who are summoned by the Native American elders, by the way, you know what they call their society? It couldn't be any plainer. They call it the Giant Society.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And so the thing is, now, they did not take us to them. I would have, given anything to be taken to one of those. Now, probably not taken through one of those, but the point is that we couldn't get them to do it because in their mind, it's sacred. So I asked one of the most famous ones, I said, why, when these were the people that literally ate you out of existence, devoured you, would you even think of listening to them and wanting them to come back? Because I said, your myths and legends all tell you that they're cannibals, and they destroyed the Anasazi, they destroyed the Pueblo people, they destroyed the Sand Canyon populations. And by the way, when you go to Chaco Canyon and you go to some of these giant Pueblo dwellings, I mean, these things were some of the biggest civilizations in North America that are astronomical. And when I say astronomical, even their kivas, their circular pits where they get together, they sit around and they open up like a stargate in the floor and communicate with these spirits, they're all astronomically aligned the same way the pyramids are. And I believe for the first time in 2,400, and I'm off a few years, but 2,400 years, the pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Giza, and the other two pyramids, Khufu and Menkaure, okay, the three pyramids, the Great Pyramid and then the other two lesser pyramids, they're lined up in the same position as they were 2,400 years ago. So, and I want to share something. I produced a DVD that I want everybody to see. It is the most astonishing DVD that's ever been done on the Smithsonian cover-up. The idea of the giants coming to the Americas and the giants and the Egyptians coming to America and others coming to America 235 BC and the technology that came with them. If the Grand Canyon, Dave, every single major landform has an Egyptian name. And where did those come from? Some guy in the National Park Service who went to India? No. These names go back to the legends of the ones who came from the east in their longboats. Remember, the Grand Canyon as we see it today is not the same water level as it was, basically 2,200 years ago, because you've got the different strata, the different sediment levels that you can see the different water lines, just like the great pyramids in Giza, but also the Sphinx. So all of the Egyptian stuff is coming into the forefront again. So in my new DVD, go on my website, stevequayle.com, I talk about the Egyptian presence in the Grand Canyon, the Pacific Rim, and the Great Smithsonian Cover-Up. For the first time in history, the Smithsonian has denied all these years, close to 150 years, that there were any such thing as giants. I have an eyewitness on the tape talking about he was taken into the, if you will, the underground warehouse complex out of Washington, D.C., 100 yards long with 4 floors deep, or 4 different levels, and intersecting hallways going off of each of that annex stop and basically 100 yards each too. He was showing the Egyptian artifacts taken from the Grand Canyon. He was showing the Egyptian artifacts taken, mummies taken from the Grand Canyon. He was observing a scientific procedure going on one of the the mummies that was in a CAT scanner, and he asked about it, and the person that was his guide basically made the statement, well, we allow certain people with the correct security clearances into this level to do scientific experiments, but when they're done, then you're going to love this. You're going to, when we're done with allowing the scientists to do what they're doing, then the mummies are taken back to the Grand Canyon. Now, that sounds really hard for most people to believe, but the story that led up to him being welcomed in the Grand Canyon, you can look it up. Dr. Troy Payway, P-E-W-E, was the head geologist who set up the geology department at Arizona State University. He used to take graduate students down the Grand Canyon yearly. He was allowed access into areas where no other people were. For the record, 95% of the Grand Canyon, according to what I've been told, even the Native American elders say this is off limits. So when people, they'll talk about the Kincaid Cave, but Dr. Payway's graduate students asked him, why are all these landforms in the Grand Canyon, why are they named with Egyptian names? And he simply said this, because of some interesting artifacts that were found there. Well, I can tell you point blank that his brain, his literal brain, lies right next to John Wesley Powell's in the Smithsonian. And people have got to get this. Now, why is this critical? The reason they're covering up the presence of giants is because it underscores the biblical narrative. It talks about, obviously, heavenly beings, which is biblical, coming and having sex with earth women and producing human beings, and they produce a race of giants. People will counter that saying, well, in the Bible, Jesus said there is no marriage in heaven. But then in heaven there is in the angels in heaven where they're neither given or taken a marriage. That's in heaven. The word fallen means to leave that estate. Jude talks about the angels which kept not their estate. And unfortunately, people have a really hard time in understanding that with supernatural power, the fallen angels, and they always assume that fallen angels were giants. No, but the combination of the supernatural genetic material of the fallen angels combining with the human DNA produced a race of super beings that built so many of these unusual megaplexes, the megalithic monuments in the world. And now, every day, even on Matt Drudge, now we've got one of the treasure hunters from the History Channel saying he found an alien some kind of a ship in all of his Gordon Cooper studies. I don't know if you've watched that show, Cooper's Treasure. But so it's coming out, Dave. So this is why, again, I want people to understand. I want them to go to my website, stevequayle.com, and I want them to take a look at I'm going there right now, Forbidden History Revealed. And the Forbidden History Revealed is the name of this DVD series. We still have the True Legends, but it's important for people to understand this. And why is the DNA of giant mummies and giant skeletons being extracted by the militaries of the world? And I said this, will the giants of yesterday become the super soldiers of tomorrow? And I have eyewitness testimony of being in the secret labs where they've seen half human, half animal hybrids like the island of Dr. Moreau. And again, this is the first time in history. I can't tell people. They need to hear it. We blurred the guy's face. We blurred actually modulated his voice. But the point is, it's the first time in history, Dave, an eyewitness account of the fact that Egyptian artifacts and giant skeletons were taken from the Grand Canyon and stored in the secret underground Smithsonian warehouse.